Okay, let's explore this flexible budget situation. Okay, over here on the left side of the screen, we have the flexible budget for Quilcine Oysteria. Okay, so they tell us the flexible budget was based on 8,000 pounds. That was the level of activity at which they were anticipating operating. Okay, revenue, they come up with a forecast of $4 per pound. So 4,000 times the 8,000 pounds gives us 32,000. And then they tell us packing supplies are 50 cents per Q. Q is the units, right? The quantity of units. So that's going to be 50 cents times 8,000 pounds. Oyster bed maintenance is 3,200. Better if I put my mouse here. Wages and salaries looks like it has a fixed and a variable component. 2,900 is going to be paid regardless of the level of activity, and then 30 cents per Q, which is Q again, the number of pounds, and which at the level at which they intend to operate. Shipping 80 cents per level of activity, so 80 Q. Then utilities doesn't change, $830 regardless of the level of activity that they anticipate operating. And then other has a variable and a fixed component as well. By the way, that's the fixed component. That's the variable component. We know that because the variable component is the one that's multiplied times the quantity. The fixed doesn't change, so it's not multiplied by anything. So based on that, the flexible budget calls for total expenses of 20,580. When we subtract the expenses from the revenue, we come up with net operating of 11,420. Now, we move over to the middle, and you might want to put this on full screen. You see, here's the actual results, but I'm changing one factor. Instead of the actual pounds being produced at the same level of the flexible budget, I changed that to make it 7,500. All the rest will remain the same because this is actual results. Okay, so now we want to compare our actual results to the flexible budget. So how we would do that, I've already filled in the actual results, so this matches this. The revenue they told us is $4 per Q. So I'm going to multiply 7,500 times 4. Okay, I'm going to put that in. That would be my revenue amount at a flexible budget. The packing supplies is 50 cents Q, so we type equal 0.5, and then we point up to the Q, which is 7,500 in the flexible budget. Okay, oyster bed maintenance is 3,200. That's what the flexible budget called for. Wages and salaries would be equal to 2,900 plus 30 cents times the flexible budget amount. Okay, shipping is 80 cents times Q. Q is the quantity at which we intend to operate, and then when we compare it to actual, we actually make it the quantity we operated at. That's how we develop a flexible budget. Then utilities is 830, and other would be equal to 450 plus 5 cents times the flexible budget. So I put that in. Then I just total this. And again, all I'm doing is copying formulas that I know uh, they're relatively referenced, so I know they'll be the correct one. So when I do that, I am able to come up with, let me put a nice format on here, what the net operating income was, 13,520, but what it should have been. Okay, now, given that we did that, you might want to know, were we favorable or unfavorable? All right, so I moved over a little bit, and we'll create a favorable and unfavorable column. Now, of course, if we were doing this in a formal report, we would want to align this correctly, right? So if I do that and let me do this again, grab that, format this, and format that, that would be the correct centering that we would need. Okay, so favorable and unfavorable. Well, revenue is greater than what was called in the flexible, so that'll be favorable. So I'm going to make that a positive number. right? Packing supplies, what you want to do now is take, for expenses, take the flexible budget and subtract the actual result. You want to go the other way with revenues. And I can copy this all the way down. And we see that we were unfavorable on packing supplies, favorable on oyster bed maintenance, unfavorable on wages and salaries and shipping, favorable on utilities, and unfavorable on other. Okay, again, we can sum that amount. And if we've done this correctly, the only thing that may be off is net operating, but it looks right. Okay, let me make sure. I want to format this. Yeah. Format this. Put this here. Favorable, unfavorable. So the net effect, yeah, the net effect, the net operating, favorable and unfavorable, you just can't copy. You'd have to actually add those together. So you're going to take the revenue, which is favorable, and you're going to add the negative unfavorable. Okay, and then that comes up with 3,275 favorable. Now that makes sense because the actual results were 13,520. Flexible budget was 10,245. Okay, so hopefully this explains how you would put a flexible budget together.